Next beatitude or the blessing statement that Jesus taught his disciples is from Matthew chapter 5 verses 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Two important aspects of human beings, one to be pure and the other to see God, is mentioned in this passage of blessing that Jesus mentioned. To be pure actually means, in its original context, to be clean, to be blameless, unstained from guilt. And this word can actually mean that the purification or being made pure by a process of pruning or by a process of correcting. And here we see an important lesson that Jesus was teaching his disciples. The purity of one's life doesn't come from one's own self. Many a times we think we can be pure by ourselves. We try a lot of different ways to be perfect and we fail miserably. One biggest lesson as Christians and as disciples that we learn is that we cannot overcome or be pure and holy by our own strength. We become holy and we become righteous only through the work of Christ and completely following and obeying what Jesus has commanded us to do. In John chapter 15 verses 1 to 17, Jesus is teaching his disciples a great lesson of wine and the branches. We see that for a vine to produce the fruit, it must be pruned. And those who are truly pure are those who have been declared innocent because of the work of Jesus, who are being sanctified by his refining fire. Today, through this passage from John 15, we understand that Jesus prunes us, corrects us, rebukes us, exhorts us, so that we can become pure in his eyes. We can never become pure by ourselves, but it is only in the finished work of the cross that we can become pure and holy. The purity that Jesus is looking at is not a purity just of outward self. Many times it is very easy for us as Christians to be outwardly presentable as good disciples. However, we might be a miserable sinner in our hearts. Deep inside, we are good for nothing. Deep inside, we are dead and we have no life in it. But we can look very Christianish in every setting outside of our lives. And here Jesus is calling us to be pure from within, pure from our heart. And this means that our entirety changes. Our life itself is defined by Christ himself. Being pure in heart involves a singleness of heart towards God. There is no chance for hypocrisy, no guilt, and no hidden motives in this entire process. The purity of inward self will automatically result in the purity of our outward self. Everything that we are from within inwardly will change what we are externally in our outer being. God will help us to be a transformed being, not just in our external life, not just in our clothing, not just in the way of our life, not just on how Christianish we are in our looks, but God will help us to be holy, to be pure and righteous in his sight. And the promise that God blesses those who are pure in the heart is that they will see God. True holiness and true righteousness that comes from God will enable us to see and experience God. A reality that can never be experienced in any other ways other than being holy. We serve a God who is holy. We serve a God who is pure. And he has called us to be holy and pure, and he wants us to live that blessed state when we are living in this world as his disciples. God bless us all.